Glad you're with us today. Dan Orlovsky's right there. You see Mina Kimes and Marcus Spears on your screen now. Adam Schefter here as well. And a developing story right now that we want to get to with the Steelers. That's where we begin. Ben Roethlisberger, one of 4 Steelers who have been added to the reserve COVID-19 list after being identified as high-risk contacts after tight end Vance McDonald tested positive for the virus on Monday. Adam, what more can you tell us?
Well, Laura, this is a situation that more and more teams are facing on a weekly basis. We saw the New England Patriots go through this earlier in the year with Cam Newton and Stephon Gilmore. We saw the Lions go through it last week with Matthew Stafford. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers are dealing with it with Ben Roethlisberger, who was a close contact to tight end Vance McDonald. They flew home together. They were around the sideline together. And so now Ben Roethlisberger has not tested positive, but he must isolate for 5 days. And if he passes all his tests, he would be eligible to play this weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals. But we don't know exactly how this virus spreads. There are people in the NFL that are married that have slept in the same bed as their spouse and not gotten the virus. There are people who have been in close proximity that have gotten the virus. Nobody knows exactly how Ben Roethlisberger's tests are going to be coming out here in the coming days. But if it's all negatives, he'll be good to go in time for Sunday's game. If he does test positive from being around Vance McDonald or whatever other reason it is, then he would be out this week and presumably the next week as well. So the Steelers will continue testing him. They'll continue to see what turns up. And obviously they've added players to the reserve COVID-19 list today. And the concern in Pittsburgh is not all that different from the concern that every team in the league is now facing.
Yeah, we just saw this last week with Matthew Stafford. He ends up getting to play in the game. Adam Schefter with us all show long. Mina, what was your initial reaction to hearing this news about Ben Roethlisberger today?
Well, first reaction is, of course, that I hope he is fine and doesn't have coronavirus. Second is one that I thought about the Steelers before the season, Laura, which is why didn't they upgrade at backup quarterback? You've got a 38-year-old quarterback in Roethlisberger coming off of a very serious injury. And so what I'm speaking of goes beyond COVID, he got hurt last week, both of his knees. And you've got a defense that's so good. All you need is average quarterback play to sustain this team in their quest for the playoffs. But we saw last year what they got without Ben out of Mason Rudolph, and it was not average quarterback play. In fact, it was far below average. He finished last in the NFL in QBR, below Mitchell Trubisky and below Kyle Allen, 4.5 completed yards per attempt. That's not good enough. I don't care how good your defense is. You can't do that on offense. And I was surprised they didn't go out and sign someone. And I was also surprised it was something they didn't consider ahead of the trade deadline.
Mina, I'm along with that narrative. I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's 100% right. But more so, I thought about, like, this obviously happened with Matt Stafford, but now we're hearing about Ben Roethlisberger. Is how are these teams preparing the guys that back them up? Like, the unconventional year that it is, are you getting these second-string quarterbacks, third-string even, ready to play? We had a lot of questions come up before before the season started, of people questioning, like, how would teams manage losing a starting quarterback? What if this was the week of the Super Bowl? What if this was the week of an important playoff game? Like, this is an undefeated team, but these were all questions that we started to address. So hopefully, to your point, Mina, Ben is okay and he doesn't test positive for coronavirus and he can come and continue to play. But if not, I would hope that all teams in the league are preparing their second string guys like their starters. It's an unconventional year. When I played in the league, you only let your second guys get a few reps during the week. It should be more now for everybody.
Yeah, Dan, if Ben doesn't play, what do you think the game plan is for the Steelers on Sunday? How could they win this game against the Bengals?
Well, first of all, they would see a good amount of man coverage. That's what Cincinnati wants to do. So I would actually come out and major in my empty package because it's easier for quarterbacks to see the field. So I would empty out my backfield and go, okay, Mason, we're going to cut the field in half. I would throw the ball a bunch on first down and just get this to like a point guard game, right? Juju one-on-one, Ebron one-on-one, James Washington on one-on-one, Claypool one-on-one. I would simplify his mind as much as possible. I would not play a drop-back game because he came in a little bit the other last week, right? And when he's playing drop-back and it's, your traditional, like, I don't want that play right there where I'm asking him to think a ton and, like, scan the field 1, 2, 3 to 4. I want to cut the field in half I don't want my back in protection. I'd prefer hots. And so as little thinking as I could give Mason Rudolph, the better. I throw the ball on first down. I'd empty out the backfield. I try to find the best matchups against man coverage and tell him if it's not there, the ball goes out of bounds. I don't need you to try and win this game. Just don't lose it.
And Dan, I don't want to say I've been critical of Ben Roethlisberger, but, I have pointed out at times not really throwing the ball downfield. His receivers do a lot of work for him, but that clip right there and, that one drive we saw out of Rudolph really revealed why Ben Roethlisberger is so important to this offense, because maybe he's not airing it out downfield, but his brain, his decision-making, changing plays at the line, calling protections, and his ball placement in the short and intermediate areas is obviously, it's more than a cut above. It's a million cuts above, and they are going to feel it if he is not in the lineup on Sunday.
Marcus, do you think the Steelers beat the Bengals without Big Ben?
No, I don't. Listen, Joe Burrow and Cincinnati, they're playing good. Like last week, they get a W. They are playing well. And look, we've lauded about Joe Burrow and talked about Cincinnati and the things they need to get fixed, but that's a scary team now. Like he has legit, Joe Burrow I'm speaking of, he's legit raised the level of play for the Cincinnati Bengals. And now you're starting to see A.J. Green get involved, and Boyd has been involved. Like, this won't be a cakewalk, and I don't think they win it against Cincinnati if Ben is not playing.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges combined for a total QBR of 32 last season. For Big Ben, he's doubled that mark with his performance this season, a QBR of 65. All right, don't go anywhere because our timeline today is still full. Let's check in on that. We're approaching week 10 of the NFL season. Don't forget about that extra playoff spot. Mina's going to tell you which teams she believes are on the verge of making the cut. Find out if your team's in. Plus, have you ever wondered where the phrase big trust came from? We wondered. Mark Ingram's got the answer and tells us next.
No trust.